Hello everybody, and wow, just as I've started getting myself sorted for the day, 10th edition 40k rulebook has dropped. So grab a brew, we're going to jump in and we're going to have a look at it. Apparently, it's all here. Yes, that is right. 10th edition has leaked, and I've pretty much got it all here. I think it's pretty much all out there now. It's literally out in the wild. Apparently, I don't think it's the full rulebook, but it's pretty much the vast majority of it. So we're going to jump in and we're going to have a little look at some of the rules, and we're going to generally go through it. This may be a long video. It's about 24 pages. Let's just jump in, shall we? So let's go. So first things first, deployment abilities. Looks pretty solid, to be fair. So deep strike during the some of these abilities are during deployment or when setting up a unit either on the battlefield or into reserves. These are known as deployment abilities, and some widespread examples of these are present below. During the declared battle formation setup, if models in a unit with this ability can set up in the reserve instead of setting up on the battlefield. If you do, in the reinforcement setup, you can set up basically in your movement phase 9 inches. So if you are a Age of Sigmar fan and player, you will recognize this straight away. It's basically deep strike from Age of Sigmar. You can set up a unit in reserve instead of on the battlefield, and when you can set them up in your reinforcement step, which is later on, it'll explain that. Basically, you can drop 9 inches from enemy units. It's pretty standard. It's the same as Age of Sigmar. Leadership during deployment. If every model in this unit has this ability, then when you set it up, you can set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from enemy deployment zone and all enemy models. Infiltrators. So infiltrators is always working the same. Scouts. Scout X units can make a normal move of up to X before the first turn begins. So if you've got the Scout keyword, the little X number will be changed to a number, and that's how far you get to move. If embarked in a dedicated transport, that dedicated transport can make this move instead. Cool. This ends this model's move more than 9 inches horizontally away from enemy models. And so we've also got leaders. So before the battle, character units with this leader ability can be attached to one of the units, which we got told in the Warhammer community article, which is pretty good. Strategic reserves. So basically, this is like these rules let you place units in strategic reserve, a special type of reserve that can be used to keep units off the battlefield until you acquire them. Note that while all strategic reserve units are technically reserve units, the reserve is not true. So these rules do not apply to units that are using other rules that enable them to enter battle in reserves, i.e. deep strike. So this is interesting. So depending on the amount of points you've got, you're playing at what level, they're the maximum number of points that you're able to put to one side as strategic reserve. So that's kind of cool that it seems that every faction will have access to that, which is kind of cool. So reinforcements is basically your reinforcements and how that works. So reserve units, a unit that starts the battlefield in a location other than the battlefield, always count as having made a normal move in the turn that they are set up on the battlefield. So setting up 9 inches away from the enemy. Any specified distance from the enemy models applies to horizontal distance. So basically always be 9 inches away from the enemy. Any reserve units do not set up on the battlefield by the end of the battle counts as being destroyed. That's interesting that it's by the end of the battle, and they haven't stipulated like by turn 3, which is basically what they do in Age of Sigmar. So the command phase. Your command phase is split into 2 steps. In the first, both players gain 1 CP, and you resolve any command phase rules. In the second, you test to see if you get battle shock. Cool, so you now do battle shock at the beginning of your turn rather than at the end, which is kind of cool. Outside of CP player gains at the start of the command phase, each player can only gain a total of 1 CP per battle round, regardless of sources. Interesting. So no CP farming. Be interesting to see how long that lasts, and codexes don't override that. But that last sentence, regardless of other sources, would kind of seems to me that they've kind of bulletproofed that. So codexes aren't going to change it. So battle shock. In this step, you must take a battle shock test for each of your units on the battlefield that is below half strength. Roll a 2d6 and result is higher than the highest leadership of that unit. Cool. So if you fail a battle shock, you lose the objective control. So if you remember on the profiles, you get that little OC and it'll say like 2 for most battle line units or 6 for Angron. You lose, that goes to 0. If you fall back, you must take a desperate escape test. That's going to be on page 14. If controlling players cannot use, and you cannot use stratagems on that unit. Once you've taken all battle shock tests, you move to the movement phase. Cool. So starting strength, below strength, and attached units. I like how they've actually gone through this. Let's have a look at the artwork. Nice. Starting strength, the number of models a unit contains when it is added to your army is known as its starting strength. Below half strength is some rules refer to a unit being below half strength. If a unit has a starting strength of 1, then it's said to be below half strength while its remaining number of wounds is less than half of its wounds characteristics. So, Angron has this rule on his profile that he is able to buff units, and that if they're below their starting strength, then they gain a bonuses for being within a certain range of him. And if a model has just one model in a unit and it loses 1 wound, it gets those bonuses. So half strength is obviously below half of that, which is good. For any other units, while the number of models in the unit is less than half its starting strength, that unit is said to be half. So if you've got 10 tactical marines or 10 intercessors in your squad and you're down to 5, you're at half strength. Pretty simple. Destroyed. Throughout a battle, models will suffer damage and be destroyed, and when a model is destroyed, it is removed from the battlefield. When every model in a unit has been destroyed, that unit is destroyed. Cool. Attached units. Some characters have the leadership ability, so we already know how to that because we've been through that already. And this will sort of, a Primaris Captain, starting strength of 1. It's attached to a unit of intercessors, starting strength of 5. The attached unit has a starting strength of 6. Makes sense. Stratagems. Oh, so we do still have stratagems in the game. Command points can be spent during the battlefield to use stratagems. All players can use core stratagems presented here. Additional stratagems can be found in codexes and other publications. Other publications. We are getting campaign books and other sources of rules. This whole thing that they're saying that you're only going to need certain things to play the game, the rules are already there. So, when you use a stratagem, reduce your CP total by the amount listed on that stratagem. If you do not have enough CP for specific stratagems, you cannot use it. That's obvious. To use the stratagem, you must pay the CP specified. To the same stratagem cannot be used more than once in the same phase. That's good. Stratagem categories: battle tactic, epic deed, strategic ploy, or war gear. So, battle tactic, these stratagems bolster a unit's effectively in battle during their attacks and defense capacities. I can't read, I'm dyslexic. At the critical moment. Epic deed, these stratagems are used by individual models. Strategic ploy, these stratagems enable units to gain new strategic insights, granting them a small but vital window of opportunity. And war gear is used by special items. So, command reroll, 1 CP. So it's a core battle strategy. So I like how it tells you what it is, when you use it, and the effect. Nicely laid out. So when you use it in any phase, just after you have made a hit, a wound, or a damage roll, a saving throw, an advanced roll, a charge roll, a desperate escape test, a hazardous test. Ooh, wonder what hazardous tests are. Or just after you rolled the dice to determine the number of attacks made with a weapon for an attack made by this unit, you get to reroll that test. Cool. Counter-offensive. Strategic ploy. Fight phase. After an enemy unit has fought. Target: 1 unit from your army that is within engagement range and one or more enemy units that has not already been selected to fight this phase. Your units fight next. Nice. Epic challenge, epic deed, 1 CP. When in the fight phase, when a character unit from your army is with engagement range of one or more attached units, it is selected to fight. One character model in your unit. Effects until the end of the phase. All melee attacks made by that model have the precision ability. Cool. Well, interesting to see what that's going to do. Also, whoever leaked this was wearing a nice pair of suit trousers. Insane bravery. 1 CP. Battle shock step for your command phase. Just after you fail the battle shock test taken from a unit in your army, the unit from your army that battle shock test was just been taken, even though your battle shock units cannot normally be affected by your stratagems, your unit is treated as having passed. So if you basically fail a battle shock test, you can pay 1 CP in that unit, but you can only do this once per phase, so you're only going to do it to one unit, which is cool. Firewatch is a strategic ploy. It costs 1 CP. When is in your opponent's movement or charge phase, just after an enemy unit is set up, or when the enemy unit starts or ends a normal advance, fallback, or charge move, target one unit from your army that is within 24 inches of the enemy unit, and that would be eligible to shoot if they were in your shooting phase. Your unit can shoot the enemy unit as if it were your shooting phase. Restrictions. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a ranged attack, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 is required to score a hit, irrespective of the attack's weapons, ballistic skills, or any modifiers. You can only use this stratagem once per turn. So you're going to use this once per turn rather than once per phase. That's cool. So basically, it means that essentially Overwatch. Okay, cool. Overwatch in the movement phase as well. Oh, nice. Grenade. So 1 CP, it's war gear. You basically give a unit a grenade, and on a 4+, it suffers a mortal wound within 8-inch range. Okay. Battle tactic stratagem, go to ground, 1 CP. When your opponent's shooting phase, or just after an enemy unit has selected its target, one infantry unit from your army that is selected as a target of one or more of your units attacks. This unit of that phase, all models in that unit have a 6+ invulnerable save and have the benefit of cover. Cool, so the old go to ground is back. I like that. That's cool. I'm really happy that's back. I missed that. Tank shock is back. Woohoo! So strategic ploy, your charge phase, one vehicle from your army. Until the end of the phase, after your unit ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of it, then select one melee weapon your unit is equipped with. Roll a number of d6 equal to that weapon's strength characteristic. If that weapon characteristic is greater than that enemy unit's toughness characteristic, roll 2 additional dice. For each 5+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Oh my god! Wow! Right, so the way I'm going to read that is if an Imperial Knight is within engagement range, so until the end of the phase, after this unit ends a charge. So if an Imperial Knight charges and is within an engagement range, it can pay 1 CP to do tank shock, which means you will then roll a number of d6 equal to the weapon strength characteristic. Now, some of those weapons are probably going to be like strength 16, especially the fist. So you'll be able to roll 16 dice. Say a hypothetical, we haven't really seen it yet, but if it's strength 16, say 16 dice. But if the strength characteristic is greater than that of the enemy unit's toughness, you roll an additional 2. And for every 5 up, the enemy suffers a mortal wound to a maximum of 6. That's pretty nasty. That is pretty nasty. Holy crap. That is pretty cool. Like, I mean, that's even like if a Land Raider charges, like you'd be able to use the strength characteristic of... Oh, it's the melee weapon. So yeah, you're not going to be able to use the big ass gun. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think the strength of a tank is going to be pretty high. So smoke screen, 1 CP. In your opponent's shooting phase, 1 smoke unit from your army that is selected as a target of 1 or more of the attacks. Until the end of the phase, all models benefit from cover and the stealth ability, so you're going to be able to pop smoke. Rapid ingress, 1 CP. End of your opponent's movement phase, 1 unit from your army that is in reserve. Your unit can arrive on the battlefield as if it were the reinforcement step of your movement phase. You cannot use this stratagem to enable a unit to arrive on the battlefield during a battleground it would not normally be able to do so. Cool, okay. So you can't do that on turn 1. I guarantee you won't be able to do reserves on turn 1. Heroic intervention is pretty much the same. So the movement phase. So your movement phase is split into 2 steps. First, you can move your units. Then you can set up reinforcements, as we expected from earlier on. So movement units. When a unit moves, it can make a normal move, an advance, or remaining stationary. I think what's probably going to be best going through this is if I stick to going through the little grey boxes rather than going through the big blurb of rule, because the bullet points are pretty effective. Units that are within engagement range of any enemy models can only fall back or remain stationary. Okay, that's standard and normal. So a normal move is models moves up to its M characteristics on its profile, and you cannot move within engagement range of enemy models. Does it tell me what engagement range is? I haven't seen that yet. Advanced moves, move plus D6, cannot move within engagement range. And units that advance cannot shoot or charge this turn. Unless you're a World Eater player and you've got the right thing, then you're running and advancing all the way to the all army wide. Fallback moves. A unit cannot shoot or declare a charge in the same turn that it falls back. So when a unit falls back, each model in that unit can make a fallback move by moving a distance in inches less than equal to its movement characteristic, and when doing so you can move it within engagement range of enemy models, provided it does not end that move within engagement range of any enemy models. If that is not possible, the unit cannot fall back. So basically you're falling out of engagement range. Desperate escape test. Oh, interesting. So this is the other thing that it talked about on page 14. I presume this is page 14. It looks like page 14. Right, so unlike when making other types of move, models can move over enemy models when making a fallback move, as if those enemy models were not there. But you must take a desperate escape test for each model that will do so, excluding models with a Titanic or Fly rule, before enemy models in that unit are moved. In addition, if a unit is battle shocked when it is selected to fall back, you must take a desperate escape test for every model in the unit before they are moved. Each time a desperate escape test for a model is roll a d6. On a 1 to 2, one model from the unit is fallen back, is destroyed, selected by you. The same model cannot ever trigger a desperate escape test per phase. Can only ever trigger 1 desperate escape test. Right, okay, so if you're 1 and 2, a model dies, 3+, they're fine. Right, cool. Moving terrain. So moving terrain, models can freely move over terrain features 2 inches or less in height. Models cannot move through terrain features taller than 2 inches, but can climb up and down. So there you get a nice example, A to B. So A, towards the building, it moves 9 inches freely over the pipe as it's only the height of 2. And then the building is taller than 2 inches, so it must make a vertical move of 3 inches. Fly units, it's pretty much the same. Shooting phase. So use the following sequence when the units shoot. 1, select eligible units. 2, select targets. Make range attacks. Repeat for the next unit. So before a unit shoots, select the target for all of its ranged weapons. At least one model in the target unit must be visible to the attacking model and within range of the weapon units being used. Models with more than one ranged weapon can shoot them as some of the different at the same or different targets, but models cannot split attacks from the same weapon across more than one target. So Bolters and heavy bolter. Bolters can fire at 1, heavy bolter can fire at 2, but you can't split the shots from the heavy bolter between 2 different targets. Standard, hasn't changed. Models in the same unit can shoot at the same or different targets. Okay. Lone operative, cool. This is the thing that Guilliman has. Unless part of an attached unit seed leader, this unit can only be selected at the top as the target of a range attack if the attacking model is within it 12 inches. So the Primarch models have lone operative, apparently, and they can't be targeted unless you're wholly within 12 inches. Cool. Make range attacks. So when a model shoots a weapon, it makes a number of attacks equal to the weapon's attack characteristics. Yep, as normal. Resolve all attacks against one unit before resolving attacks against another. Standard. Resolve all attacks made with the same weapon profile before resolving attacks with another. Makes sense. If a model was in range and its target was visible when they're selected, the weapon's attacks can always be made. Cool. So if you start taking models off, it's still going to work. So locked in combat. Units cannot shoot while within engagement range of enemy units. Units cannot shoot at targets within an engagement range of friendly units. Okay. Stealth. If a model in a unit has the ability, then each time a ranged attack is made against it, subtract 1 from the hit rolls. So if you've got stealth, -1 a hit. Monster and vehicle units are eligible to shoot in their controlling player's shooting phase, even while they are within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. Ranged models equipped with monster or vehicle units can target 1 or more enemy units they are within engagement range, even if other friendly units are also engaged. So monsters and vehicles can shoot at stuff that they're in combat with. A unit that is within engagement range of an enemy monster or vehicle unit is still not eligible to shoot, and so cannot make ranged attacks against that monster or vehicle, unless that unit is eligible to shoot even while the engagement of enemy unit, e.g. it itself is a monster or vehicle, or its models are equipped with pistols. So pistols can shoot in combat. Cool. Other units from your army that are eligible to shoot can, however, target and shoot the enemy monster and vehicle. Monsters and vehicles can shoot and be shot at even while they are within engagement range of enemy units. Each time a ranged attack is made by or against such a unit, subtract 1 from the target's hit rolls, unless shooting with a pistol. Cool. So close combat. Making attacks, or making attacks in general. So you roll the hit, roll the wound, allocate attacks, do the saving throws, inflict damage. I like these little bullet points of how it's broken down. So hit rolls, roll to hit with your ballistic skill or your weapon skill, rolling a d6. A critical hit, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 is always successful. Nice. An unmodified hit roll of a 1 always fails. A hit roll can never be modified more than -1 or +1. That is exactly the same as Age of Sigmar. I like that. Roll to wound. So we've got the old table is back. So strength is twice or more than 2+ to hit. Strength is greater than the toughness, 3+. Strength is equal, 4+. Strength is less than the toughness, 5+. The strength is half of the toughness, 6+. Exactly as it used to be in 8th and 9th edition. So critical to wound is a wound roll of a 6 is always successful. An unmodified wound roll of 1 always fails, and wound rolls can never be modified more than -1 and +1. Allocating of attacks. If a model is the target unit has already lost any wounds or had other attacks allocated to it in this phase, the attack must be allocated to that. So you have to kill off models that are already wounded. You can't spread wounds out across a unit. That hasn't changed. Invulnerable saves. Never modify an attack's AP. Controlling player can choose to use either the model's invulnerable save or save characteristic. So saving throws. Roll 1d6 and modify by the attack's AP. If the result is less than the save being rolled for, the saving throw is failed and the model suffers damage. That hasn't changed. An unmodified roll save of 1 always fails. A saving throw can never be improved by more than +1. Hallelujah. I really wish they would bring that bullet point into Age of Sigmar and stop stave stacking. Hopefully in 4th edition next year they will fix that, but it's really good to see that 40k has that nice little sentence, so stave stacking is not going to be a thing. So mortal wounds. Each mortal wound inflicted on a unit causes one model in that unit to lose 1 or more wounds. No saving throws can be made against mortal wounds. Mortal wounds inflicted by attacks always apply after normal damage, even if the damage was saved. Right, there's a question. It says saving throw. Now, does that mean invulnerables? Do you get your invulnerables against mortal wounds? Alright, some attacks inflicted mortal wounds. Each mortal wound inflicted on 1 point of damage on the target unit, and they are always applied 1 at a time. Do not make a wound roll or a wound roll or a saving throw, including invulnerable saves, so you don't get invulnerables. So inflicting damage, a model loses the number of wounds equal to the attack's damage heuristic. If a model is destroyed by an attack, any excess damage is inflicted that is lost. Feel no pain X. Each time this model loses a wound, roll a d6 and the result is equal to or exceeds the X. That wound is not lost. So feel no pain 6+. Basically, if you've got feel no pain, you can mitigate the damage that model is going to get, so it suffers any damage, and I believe that is also from mortal wounds. Subtract as a feel no pain. Each time a model with this ability suffers damage, so would lose a wound, including wounds lost from mortal wounds. There you go. Deadly demise. Some models have deadly demise X listed in their abilities. When such a model is destroyed, roll 1d6 before removing it from play. If such a model is in a transport, roll before any embarkment models disembark. On a 6, each unit within 6 inches of that model suffers a number of mortal wounds denoted by the X. If this is a random number, roll separately for each unit. Cool. So I think deadly demise is like an explosion. That's pretty cool. Combat phase, charge phase. So select a level target, select targets, make a charge roll, make charge move, repeat. So charge bonus is each time you make a charge move until the end of the turn, that unit fights first. Awesome. You must be within 12 inches of 1 or more enemy units at the start of your charge phase, unless otherwise the following applies. The unit advanced or fallen back, so you can't charge, unless you have a rule that states that you can. So the World Eater's Corn Blessings of a double 4+ or a treble allows you to run and charge. The unit is within engagement range, or the unit is at the aircraft. Charging units. Within engagement range of any enemy unit that you selected as the target. So you have to end within engagement range, and I believe engagement range is base to base. A unit coherency, so roll 2d6. Targets of a charge must be within 12 inches, but do not need to be visible. The distance roll is sufficient enough to get in engagement range, and the targets, while maintaining unit coherency, cannot move within engagement range of any unit that was not target of the charge. So no multiple charges unless you specifically state that's who you're charging. If the charge is successful, each model makes a charge move less than or equal to the charge roll, must move into base-to-base contact with enemy models. So base-to-base. Cool. And then we've got charging through cover and how that works. Charging flying models and how that works. And then we fight. So so far it's following the Age of Sigmar way of thing. So you charge, base-to-base contact, then you get a pile-in. Pile-in is a 3-inch move. Every model that moves must be moved closer to the closest enemy model and in base-to-base contact with an enemy if possible. The unit must end its coherency within engagement range of at least 1 enemy unit, or no models can pile in. So you're making melee attacks. A model can fight it if it is within engagement range of an enemy unit. A model can fight if it is in base-to-base contact with another model from its own unit that is in itself is in base-to-base contact with an enemy unit. Oh, cool. So if you get your front rank, so say you've got a unit of 10 berserkers, you get the front 5 into contact, with the enemy models, and the 5 behind are in base contact with the front 5 of your unit, then all 10 models get to fight in that combat phase. Brilliant. Select weapons. Awesome. So the fight phase. Fights first, units with charge. Units that can fight first do so, remaining do the combat. So fights first. Units with this ability that are eligible to fight do so in the fight phase step, providing every model in the unit has this ability. So if you charge, you have the fight first ability. There probably will be unit models in other codexes and armies with the fights first rule. So that makes sense. If you're from Age of Sigmar, that's essentially the strikes first ability. In this step, all remaining eligible units fight. This includes any units with the fights first ability that were not eligible to fight at the start of the fight phase, but have since become eligible to fight. Okay. Each model that can fight does so using one of its melee weapons. Roll a number of attacks equal to the attack characteristic. Selecting a target, you must all attacks must be resolved before doing others, and then attacks must be within engagement range, and then making attacks is the same as making the hit and wound rule that they previously explained. Okay, so consolidate. After a unit has finished making all of its melee attacks, it can consolidate. Each time a unit consolidates, you can move each models in that unit that is not already in base-to-base contact with an enemy up to 3 inches. So you move up to 3 inches. Every model that moves must end closer to the closest enemy model and in base-to-base contact with an enemy model if possible. If the unit ends its coherency and within engagement range of at least one enemy unit if possible. If the above is not possible, each model can move towards the closest objective marker, but this must result in the unit being within range of it and in unit coherency. Cool. If the above is not possible, no models can consolidate. And we get an example of consolidating. Awesome. So nice examples. The new Terminators look pretty cool. So detachments. Everyone wants to know about detachments. So brilliant. Let's go about detachments. Example. An example of a datasheet. Is this datasheets? Oh no. I got excited there. Read it wrong. Datasheets. So we've seen what datasheets look like, and everything else. Leadership tests, random characteristics, aura abilities, psychic weapons, and now that's been in already. So weapon profiles. So we're almost finished. Assault cannot shoot even if the bearer unit advanced, unless other rule states otherwise. Pistols can be shot even if the bearer's unit is within engagement range of an enemy unit, but must target one of these enemy units. Cannot be shot alongside any other non-pistol weapon except for a monster. Rapid fire. Increase the attacker's attacks by X when targeting units within half range. Ignores cover. Pretty self-explanatory. You don't get cover. Twin linked. When twin linked is in the profile, each time an attack is made, you can re-roll that attack's wounds roll. Torrent is in the profile. Each time an attack is made with such a weapon, the attack's automatically hit. So flamers. Lethal hits. Weapons with lethal hit in their profile are known as lethal hits. Each time an attack is made with such a weapon, a critical hit automatically wounds the target. Very cool. Lance, when has the lance in its profile, each time an attack is made with this weapon, its bearer made a charge move, add 1 to the wounds roll. Cool. Indirect fire. Wow, a lot of rules. So can target and make attacks against units that are not visible. Alright, okay. If no models are visible in a target unit when it is selected, then when making an attack against the target with an indirect rule weapon, subtract 1 from the attack hit rules, and the target has the benefit cover against their attack. Okay. Blast weapons, add 1 to the attack characteristics for every 5 models in the target unit, rounding down. Can never be used against a target that is within engagement range of any units from the attacking model's army, including its own. Melter X, increase the damage by X when targeting units within half range. Precision, when targeting an attached unit, the attacking model's player can have the attack's The attack allocated to a character model in a unit visible to the bearer. Sniper rifles will probably have precision weapons. And then heavy, add 1 to the hit rules if the bearer's unit remains stationary. So +1 to hit if you've got heavy bolters and you stand still. Hazardous. Ooh. After a unit shoots or fights, roll 1 hazardous test on a d6 for each hazardous weapon used. For each one model equipped with a hazardous weapon is destroyed. Characters, models, and vehicles suffer 3 mortal wounds instead. I guarantee hazardous weapons are going to be things like plasma weapons and things like that. Sustained hits is sustained hits X. Each critical hit scores X additional hits on the target. Oh, nice. Extra attacks. The bearer can attacks with this weapon is addition to any weapons it can make attacks with. Nice. Devastating wounds. A critical wound inflicts mortal wounds equal to the weapon's damage characteristic instead of the normal damage. Okay. And then the anti is either going to be anti-vehicle, anti-psyker, anti-whatever. An unmodified wound roll of X against the target will, with the matching keyword, scores a critical wound. So that's cool. So if you've got anti-vehicle and it's 3+, then you'll always score a critical wound on a 3+ against that vehicle. That's really good. And that is it. That is the rules. So that's it. The 35 minutes, not bad. So it's out. Now, obviously, that's not everything. There's still things like detachment rules and everything else, but that seems to be pretty decent. So we will probably see more in the coming future. But I thought I'd just get into this video and get it out there. So if you want to have a look at it, feel free. Also, if you like the content I'm making, then hit the subscribe button. Like this video, drop a comment and tell me what you think of 10th edition. Now it's out in the wild. And yeah, and ring that bell for notifications. And thanks very much. Loads of cool content coming. Lots of cool painting videos. There's a lot of big painting videos coming. So there's going to be over a number of videos to do one project. So there's quite a lot. There's a Seraphon coming. Seraphon Slan coming. There's some vampires. There's some vampire characters. There's a Lumineth Shrine. There's a lot of cool little videos like plasma weapons and sun metal weapons for AOS and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff coming and it's really cool. So thanks very much. 10th edition's out, baby. It's looking pretty good. And yeah, we'll talk about it more in the future. See you, everybody. Goodbye.